Have you noticed how when your physical space is cluttered and chaotic, it not only impacts your physical space, but it literally starts to take up space in your mind. So you start thinking about the mess, you start having to navigate the mess, having to find things. All of these things come into play. The same thing happens when it comes to your personal finances. When there is clutter and disorganization in your personal finances, it makes it really difficult for you to navigate the day-to-day of your personal finances, which makes it even more difficult for you to even start to think about or imagine what the future should look like for you. So in today's video, I want to talk about 3 things you can do to start to organize and get a handle of your finances so that you have a very clear picture of what's going on with your finances, and also you have a really great system at the end of it all. The first thing you need to do is to take stock. This means looking for all the different accounts that you have under your name. So that is retirement annuities, investments, bank accounts, credit cards, every single type of account and every single type of debt, or all the debts that you have to track all of those down so that you make sure that you have a very clear and very complete picture of what your personal finances look like. And it might sound very simple, like, of course you should know what accounts you have, right? That's something that we might all assume should be the case, but you would be surprised at how many accounts exist out there that are literally unclaimed. Like, people opened the accounts, they started investing in those accounts, they just forget about it forever, pretty much. In fact, right now in South Africa, there is 90,000 South African rand sitting in different retirement annuities, pension funds, and different types of investment accounts that people opened up and have forgotten about. So this is a real thing. So make sure you know all of the accounts that you have. If you've had several different employers in your life, what type of retirement accounts did you have with them? Did you transfer that money when you left that company, and so on? I really hope people are still watching until the second part, because the first tip, it sounds so straightforward, but it really does matter. Anyway, the second tip that I have for you is to start organizing all of these accounts. You'll find that you probably have multiple credit cards, or maybe multiple bank accounts and so on, or multiple investments and stuff like that. Start to think about the purpose of each account that you have in your name. So of course this won't apply to your debts, for example, but for your bank accounts, your credit cards, your investments, your retirement annuity accounts, stuff like that, start to think about each purpose of each account and make sure that the purpose of each account that you choose to keep is something that serves a specific purpose, and that you don't have multiple accounts trying to serve the exact same purpose. If you can try and simplify how many accounts you have for what reason, then it just makes it so much easier for you to just navigate your finances, because it's less accounts to navigate, it also lessens the amount of information you just have to process on a day-to-day basis. So think about that. And then when it comes to your debts, start thinking about, okay, which debts do I have? What's the interest rate? What is the balance? What are the different types of debts? And while you're doing that, the benefit of doing this is going to be that when you get to the point where you want to pay off some of your debts, or you actually want to pay off all of your debts, then you can start organizing them in terms of the highest interest or the highest balance, and start to think about whether or not you want to use the debt snowball method to pay off your debt, or use the debt avalanche method. But that is a whole other separate video that I can do if anyone is interested, but it'll help you with that later stage. So once you have your accounts organized and simplified, then you can move on to the next thing. And I think this is probably one of the most important things that everyone who manages their personal finances kind of establishes and has to do in their journey, and that is create a money management system for yourself. So this is a very simple system that describes how your money moves in your life. How does money come in? How does money exit your life? So what account does your paycheck go into? Like, where do you get paid? Which account gets that money? And when that money arrives, what happens with that money? So I'll give you an example of an overview of my own like money management system that I'm currently using. And it does change depending on what's going on in my life. But currently, right now, this year, my biggest goal is to save for my emergency fund. So my current money management system looks like I have pretty much like a set budget that I tweak month to month. So I check that at the beginning of the month, make sure that's still up to date, so in line with what's going to happen in the next month. And then when my paycheck arrives, it arrives into my bank account. I only have one bank account. And when it gets there, that money then gets distributed into like different accounts. So for me, it's just really easy for my brain and just for like admin purposes to just split all that money into different little pots within my bank account. So the money will come into my main bank account. When it gets into my main bank account, it goes into different categories. So I'll have a little bit of a pot set aside for utilities, a pot set aside for transport, a pot set aside for groceries, for example. And that just makes it really easy for my brain to like manage that money. So that's what happens with the money when it arrives there. And that is the system that I've set up. The next thing is that the rest of the money that's left over after all of that stuff is done then gets sent into my emergency fund. So that is, I try to target a certain amount to save towards that emergency fund. It kind of fluctuates a little bit month to month, but overall I have a set amount that I try to target, and that is the amount that is automated to transfer every single month. So when it's below, then I have to maybe manually transfer the money myself, but outside of that, it's a pretty automated process. And that is a very simple thing that I'm doing right now when it comes to my money management system. And honestly, I would say like this would probably work for a lot of people, but don't just take this and just do the same thing. Like create something that works for your own brain and for your own like personal needs. But that is an example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about create a money management system. I know this stuff might sound so simple, and in the greater scheme of things, yes, it is simple because we're not even talking about investing yet. And even when you do get to the point of investing, you actually learn it well enough, then you realize how simple that is as well. But it's so important to share this information still, especially if you're watching this and you're like, Thando, like I know this stuff. Like send this video to someone else who might not know this stuff, because a lot of people don't get to have these conversations. So make sure you spread the information, and I hope that you also found a little bit of a nugget here and there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to watch my next video. Bye. This is the third time that I'm recording this. I really hope this is the last time I'm recording this. Let's get started.